everyone, and welcome to Soul Speak. Toxic family members, how to build boundaries respectfully to protect ourselves. My name is Rachel, and I'm with my co host Grace. And this is a podcast where we talk about issues candidly. Don't we, Grace?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So, welcome back, everyone. Yes, we try to be as authentic to ourselves as possible,
That is
talking
very
about our
important.
personal experiences. Yes, the things that we've been through, the lessons that we have learned, and hopefully, whatever it is that we have to say can give some guidance, can give some light, some help and aid to whoever else is going through the same thing or has been through the same thing. So hopefully it'll be helpful for all of the things that we've got planned for you today, this episode in
And
particular.
if it doesn't help anybody else, I know I'll be helped. So at the very least, we've got that, Grace. So
For sure, for sure.
all right. So toxic family members. This is something I have close experience with yet again. I'm going to assume that everyone has dealt with toxic family members. If not, I'm jealous as hell.
Mm,
And also, please note that though we'll be focused on toxic family members, this can be applied to any type of toxic relationship. So I just wanted everyone to know that. So just to know that it's inclusive, it's not just about family members.
yes.
Um, so I Googled. Everyone is going to see that that is a place that I run to when I'm trying to understand something. I've been Googling since the year of 18 years old. I'm not going to say how many years that is, but it's way over a decade. Um, and I looked up the definition of toxic relationships or toxic family members.
Yes.
What I found though, Grace, is that there were a bunch of examples, but not like an exact definition. And I feel like definitions give me it's my North Star. Like
Yes.
it gives me like a direction and a vision. So
Yes.
that's why that's so important to me. All
It's the
right,
anchor. Yeah.
correct, an anchor. So I came up with the following based on different things that I read. A toxic relationship, as per Rachel Webster's dictionary,
Google.
uh, is any relationship that is characterized by persistent mental, emotional, or physical cruelty. Now, there are two things to note within this definition is that one, the cruelty can be intentional or unintentional, and that the cruelty can be overt and covert. So it
Mm,
doesn't necessarily have to be something that's obvious for others to see, um, or it can be.
obvious for yourself.
Yes. Obvious, but sometimes you get like an underlining, like, I didn't like that, or that didn't feel good, So it's like,
But no, that's toxic behavior. You just can,
feel it
someone
up
just
in this piece.
someone
Yeah.
having a day, you know, you can
Yes.
chalk it up to anything at that point.
I agree. There's something, and I don't even know if this is important, Grace, but let me know. So I wanted to make a distinction with relationships because I know that there are certain people who, whenever they feel uncomfortable in relationships, they'll be like quick to label it like, "Oh, this is toxic." No,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
that's not what
Sometimes,
we're talking
nah,
here.
because sometimes you need to be, not sometimes, people need to be held accountable. We need to be held accountable. Sometimes it's not comfortable. So that's why it was also important for me to go into a definition because it's not someone told you something that was important, but you didn't like it. And, now that's a toxic relationship. Nah, nah.
No, but we have to throw words around like that a lot. I think once us, the public, specifically on the internet, as soon as a word gets popping, it's popular. We love to just throw it around. And for me, the word is genius. People say genius all the time. That person's a genius. He's a genius. No, not everybody's a genius. You know what I mean? And I feel like gets the same rap where it's like, oh my God, that guy was so toxic. That girl was so toxic. No, no, they weren't.
Like, no, they just told you something that was good advice. That's not toxic. Deal with it, get a thick
Literally.
skin. You know what word for me that bothers me? We kind of going off topic, but hey,
What?
journey. When people say that's the journey, that annoys the crap out of me because I feel like it's used all the time. It's the journey. It might be different, but it's like the journey. Nah, son. Like, why can't you just say it's your experience? And why everything got to be a journey though? But
I feel like after saying journey, you need to click. Like, I feel like that's like a kind of like statement saying, it's the
oh
journey,
yeah,
and then start clicking because it's like a
yeah.
poetry. I
And
don't know, that's random, but
I
still.
think when you say clicking, I just understood. You mean snapping your fingers?
Yes,
That's
that's what
hilarious. Because I'm like, okay, maybe the UK crowd is gonna understand that, but like,
it, it's so funny. For me, as we click your fingers, you guys say snap your
yeah, you
fingers.
snap your we snap our fingers. But yeah, you're right. That's like a poetry word or whatever.
Yes,
That's so funny.
absolutely. You're not going on a journey every day.
Yeah, nah, son. Yeah, nah. You just no, you just went to the store. That was more like a trip, not a journey. Um, so signs of a toxic relationship. And I have to say, I appreciate our mood despite the somber subject that we are discussing.
We've gone past,
I
we've gone past the really somber mood at this point. I think when you get to the point where we are, you just have to laugh at the situation.
I
It doesn't
agree.
mean it's not dark or heavy, but for sure you have to laugh at certain things sometimes just to cope.
Yeah. And I just basically enjoy your company anyway. So whatever it is we're discussing, we're going to have a good time about it. So
For
I
sure, I
appreciate
feel
that. I really do. Signs of a toxic relationship. Highlights. So if you're with a person and they're like, you have conversation and you feel like your insecurities are constantly highlighted or they give you backhanded compliments, I would say that is a sign of a toxic relationship. So, an example of that would be, "Hey, your hair looks good, but could you have worn a different outfit?" Something like that. I don't know if you have any examples, Grace. I just pulled that out of
me,
the hat.
it's always been, you look good today.
Yeah, son.
It's
Like,
it sounds like when
so the other days
people compliment you on a day-to-day basis, right? And all of a sudden, they're all up in your face and they say, "You look good today. Why today? Have I not looked good any other days? What is
yo,
there?"
yeah.
Or a situation where it would be like, "I really like your outfit. I wouldn't have put those two colors together."
I don't know. I kinda I kinda see that one differently, but I hear you because it's like, maybe they didn't have the ingenuity. They weren't genius enough.
No, don't
to
even do it. Don't even say genius because
Ah!
strangle you. Because I say that because most likely this is how you really get like the viewpoint and the reference point, right?
Mhm.
Most people throughout the day have said, "Oh my gosh, you look amazing. Your outfit's amazing, right? You look great. You look fabulous. I love the way you put that together." That's a real compliment. If
Right.
you're saying to me, "Oh, you look good today," I wouldn't have put those outfits together, and that's it. That's where it stops.
Yeah, that actually dropped on a down note. So it's like,
Compliment.
so I'll just walk away now?
Insult afterwards. That's what a backhanded compliment is. You do not care about this person. And my mum has always told me, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say it at all. You do not want me to be complimented. You are mad that everybody thinks that my outfit looks so great.
Yeah,
That's
so
it.
just shut up then. Yeah.
Shut up, keep it moving, and that's it. But for you to be like, I want to put this outfit, oh, you look good today. No, bro, I look good every day. What are you talking about?
Yeah, the
But
other 365, you know?
but it's just I think also body language says a lot. I also feel like facial expressions expose us, especially me.
Mm,
I speak with my face. There's times when I don't even speak the English language and my face is doing the talking for me. And there's times where it's just our posture. We expose ourselves on a daily basis. So even if someone is saying something nice, you can tell whether it's genuine or not.
That's true.
We all know that.
Very
That's
true.
all it is. We all know.
Very
But
true.
yeah, that kind of compliments is the devil's work for sure.
I love those examples that you gave. The second sign of a toxic relationship, and I just want to point out that by no means these are the only signs of a toxic relationship, but for the purposes of keeping a somewhat timely podcast, I chose five. So the second one is they are controlling slash manipulative.
For sure.
Now, do you have an example of that, Grace? Let me try to find one. Go
Okay,
ahead.
and manipulative is someone who controls who you are around, right? For me, I've seen it not just for myself, for friends, family members, whatever you want to call it. Your friend circle, and this could be the guy that you're dating, who you surround yourself with. They don't like it,
Right.
right? So they want to control who's around you. They want to control the narrative also. You know what I mean? What is it that your friends are telling you? And have you ever had that guy who's literally like, every time, your friends try to hold them accountable for their actions towards you that have been negative, they say your friends are just jealous. Your friends are just jealous that you're in a relationship and they're single and they don't even know what they're talking about. And
Mm,
slowly start to freeze your friends out. And it's
right.
only
Right.
where you can't go out with them or you can't be with them alone without him there. He needs to be in the room. He needs to be he needs to come to the event. He needs to come to the function. He needs to be at the club. He needs to be everywhere because he's watching your every single move, right?
Damn.
Um,
Damn.
whoa. And even the whole controlling thing as well, passwords, that's other examples you'll find on your phone. Hey, I need to have your password. I need to give me your phone. And this goes both ways. It's not just about men, it's also women can do the same thing. This is not us having a conversation of just saying it's only one gender that does this. It goes both ways. Men and women can be toxic alike. Yeah. It's just about certain things that you see and controlling in a sense where it's like controlling the narrative where you are the one who creates the story and the facade of who the real victim is as opposed to who you are. So
Mm.
you,
Yeah, like
if you're being
imposing. You're imposing.
exactly. So the toxic person creates the narrative of who everybody is. You need to believe my story. That
Right.
person is bad and you need to believe me. That person is the negative one. That person, we don't trust them, even though they're the ones who can't be trusted. So they get everyone on their side, and that goes hand in hand with being manipulative.
Yes, I
Because
agree with all of.
manipulating other people to see others in a different light that's not true to who they are.
Right.
So that you can gain favor with other people. You can keep your reputation if you are seen as someone who is sensible, someone who is level headed, someone who is trustworthy, whatever persona you have decided to showcase to the public.
Right.
That's what you're maintaining and protecting in that process. So
Right.
you manipulate everyone around you to make it seem like the oppressed are really the oppressors or they are the problem. They are the
Right.
ones who are deserving of whatever um, actions that come against them that is negative, manipulating the situation where you play the victim even though you're the one who started the problem. You're the one who caused the issue. Being very manipulative in that sense. Or just being manipulative in a sense where it's like, feel sorry for me because I have an actual issue. There's people who lie about being sick. There's people who lie about, as soon as you hold them accountable, I can't do all this, my mental health, I really can't. They will do anything and say anything. Yeah, to come out of under, they don't want to be held accountable and they slither away where you feel sorry for them at the end of the conversation, even though there is nothing wrong with them. There is no problem there.
So
So
that's
that's just a
great.
tidbit
Brought that
that I
right
have.
into the next sign of a toxic person. So you just really just talked about that now. If a conflict is brought to their attention, that person who is toxic, the responsibility is never taken and they become the victim. You surmised that perfectly. Um,
Control and manipulation go hand in hand
Yeah,
within a toxic person,
correct.
because
Absolutely.
you can't always use force to get what you want. There needs to be two ways of you being able to execute and exercise whatever goal that you have set in place. Sometimes it's force, but a lot of the time it's covertly, like you said before, by using manipulation
Yep.
and deception.
Yes, and to bring it back to family members, I am not a parent, but I think that this is a fine line that a parent would toe, whether it is intentional or not. Because as a parent, you raised a child, you used to be in complete control of this person, and now this person is becoming an adult or is an adult, and that particular separation hasn't been made, in the parent's mind. So it's easy, I think, for parents because we've called our parents controlling. I've experienced it where my parent is concerned, and it's like,
Yeah.
yo, son, I am not 10 anymore. I am very much almost
I'm
30.
a grown woman. I can do
And
what I want.
yeah, so yeah. So another sign of a toxic person is them being dismissive of your feelings once you bring a particular topic to their attention. And the last of signs of a toxic relationship or person is that they can be passive aggressive in their comments. And when they're confronted with it, I would actually think this is kind of two separate things: passive aggressive comments. And once confronted by those things, they try to play it off as if it was a joke. That drives me insane, my
A
G.
bit of my existence, Rachel. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it annoys you as much as it annoys
Yo,
me.
son, because you trying to mess with my intelligence is how I take that. I take that personally. Like, I know what you said. I know how, like you said, there's a gauge of how someone who actually meant it would say it. And this did
Exactly.
not come from a positive place. So don't be trying to
Absolutely.
play off this joke now that I'm hitting you off directly, because you
And
can
you
get
wanted
these hands. You know what I'm
and
saying?
and you wanted to get a reaction from me. The fact that
Yes.
the reaction isn't positive and it literally is challenging you, that's why you're taking it back and playing it down, saying
Right.
that I
Right.
was joking.
Right.
Because you thought I wouldn't catch that.
Right.
That's what's really annoying about that.
So I would say with toxic people, the underlying feeling is you wanting to throat punch them. And that is what you cannot give them, because that will make you look crazy, and you will not get a to a healthy resolve because, again, once again, they're controlling the narrative up in this piece. That's why you want to
Absolutely.
throat punch
But
them.
some of us will risk being crazy for the day if we can just like fly kick someone in the throat.
Yo, I would for that. I am a strong woman. I know I would have deep
I don't want to punch you in the throat.
satisfaction.
Scare me. I can't be the biggest person every day. No way.
So, which brings us to, other than throat punching, fly kicking, or
Just being a ninja.
any type of other physical retaliation, how
Yeah.
does one deal or combat toxic relationships? Now,
Without
this I
being
would
physical.
say that again, Grace?
Without being physical.
Without being exactly, barring from those things that would be so satisfying to our souls and would be more instant gratification. Um, these are the things that I would say, Grace. And though, okay, so we joked around partially about handling it physically. How I look at physical handling, or more than just physical, of handling it how you feel, like just reacting. Though in the short term you think that that may be something that is gratifying, it most of the times isn't, because A lot of times when you're dealing with something that is manipulative, or it's really an assault, is how I would call a toxic behaving person. It's an assault. So for you to behave out of that feeling, it takes you into a place where you were not, if you're dealing with it from a gut reaction. And it is also like you're reacting how that person needs and wants. Like whatever their coping mechanism is, it's obviously toxic. And whatever they're trying to bring into the environment is negative, and you followed them straight there. And even though you feel like that's something that is satisfying, it actually takes you to a place where it's not a place that you wanted to be, and it can take you to a place where you don't recognize yourself.
For sure.
So that's why I've not by myself, but these are the couple of things that I think are better. But I will just preface it by saying we're none of us are perfect, and we're not called here to be perfect. So it's like you can learn from your gut reactions to toxic relationships or toxic behaviors, and you can start from anywhere. Even if you just reacted badly to someone's behavior, doesn't mean that you can't start afresh. So we're all humans, and we make errors and we learn from them, is what should be taken away. So
Hmm.
the first thing for me with dealing with a toxic relationship is prayer, because I need the strength with an F. I need the strength um, to be able to deal with this situation how I wouldn't normally deal. Because I used to be a reactionary person, and I can still be. But I tend to catch myself. So that's why I be needing that prayer. How about you, Grace? What do you
I think
think?
to add on to that is also needing the God given wisdom. It's easy
Mm,
to make decisions, you know, on our own accord, thinking we're doing the right thing and still missing the mark. And I think that's the most important thing about prayer. It's not what you would do, right?
right.
And even on your best day, it's still not what you would do.
Right.
It's what God calls you to do in order for you to be wise in that situation, in that environment. Because I don't think this is an intellect thing, this is a wisdom thing. How do
Yes.
I deal with a situation where it's beneficial for me and my soul, and
Mhm.
also it still gives space for growth and respect, and also understanding of the other person, whether they take it or not, whether they are grateful for it or not, and whether they see it or not. Do you know what I mean?
Mm. Yes,
It
that
takes
hit
so much
deep.
strength
Yes.
in you as a human being to deal with the situation at a higher vibration than a lower vibration, where it's just like, you know what, you're not listening to me, you don't get where I'm coming from, f you, that's it, I'm done. Like, that's not
How do you feel
that's,
about it, Grace?
you know. And even then it's like your first initial reaction is you do want to kick them in the throat,
Oh,
right?
God, yes.
And after that it's like, okay, I've tried, f you, I'm done.
Right.
But when you're really dealing with things in a spiritual way, that's not really, even if you are done with someone, that's not how you will go about it. And I
Yes.
think prayer is important, and that's what I would just add on to that. But I
That was
totally agree with you.
beautifully said. Beautifully. Thank you for that. And I think that naturally will get you with the wisdom from God, the you will gain space then for self-reflection. And I think that's what's important, the self-reflection and the clarity. Because it's a situation too where toxicity is concerned, is who is the common denominator? That's important, because it can be something where, you know, I am experiencing, with everybody, everybody says I have a bad attitude. So, the common denominator is me. So then if I can do that self clarity, that clarity, get that clarity, sorry, is it me or is it the person?
Hmm.
For these purposes, we're going to assume that it's the person, but I said that because for all intents and purposes, the toxic person can also be you. So
Like I said, if people remember from our last episode, the
Mhm.
one thing that I said was it's easy for us to play the victim and not realize that we are the villain in our own stories,
Right.
right?
Right.
That doesn't mean that we can't change. It doesn't mean that we haven't made mistakes. Yeah, we can see things in our way so much so that we don't see the bigger picture and
Right.
we don't see our own faults in an event or in a situation. Even if other people were wrong, we
Right.
still play a part in something, right? And it's about self awareness and seeing that. Once you do see it, it's easy then to deal with it. But this whole idea of blaming other people and saying it's only them, it's only them, it's only them, and lacking the courage to look within, that's when the problems and the cycles continue. And I think with toxicity, it's exactly the same template, isn't it? Where it's like, yes, the other person can be toxic, but we also need to make that distinction where it's like, okay, are we playing a role in this and are we doing something on our own accord as well? That could be
Mm.
to light up the flame,
Mhm.
the flame.
That's a word right
Fire.
there. That's a
Yeah. So
word.
I totally agree with you. When there is confirmation that it's not you and it's someone else, then that's a completely different story for sure.
Right, right. And I think that's where the drawing the boundaries will come up, but we will get to that. So then the next thing and how to combat toxic relationships is that it is important, in my opinion, to identify your experience
Mm,
because I have gone through situations with people where I know I didn't like how that person made me feel, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it.
mm,
So what that does is if I'm to confront that person because eventually for me that's needed if I want to salvage that relationship or think it's worth salvaging, I need to
mhm,
be able to give you examples of exactly what I'm talking about. Now, that can be difficult because it's so pervasive, like the behavior, like it's hard to identify, but it is important if you're planning on communicating, not even just planning on communicating it to another person, but even for ourselves, for that clarity, we need to be able to identify what the experience with the toxicity is. Because if you can't identify it, you really can't do anything about it. It's like, oh, but I just have a feeling, or it feels like, nah, son, you got to be able to describe what it is. When we talked the other day and you said, I wouldn't put those two colors together, um, it made me feel like such and such. Yeah.
and I'm coming for you. I'm
Yes.
coming for your neck.
Yes. Do you have anything to add to that, Grace?
What I would add to that is that goes hand in hand with also finding patterns. You will
Mm,
always that when someone makes you feel bad by how they talk to you or how they treat you, but you can't really put your finger on it, you will realize that it's a pattern. It will be
mm,
something that always happens and always comes up. And it doesn't necessarily need a trigger.
yeah.
These are people who are going to do it whenever they feel like it. And it's usually to destroy your confidence. It's
Yeah.
usually to make you smaller, make you feel
Intentionally or not, because this clearly it comes from issues within this person.
exactly.
Yeah, but it can be intentional or not. Either way, not allowed, but.
Exactly. But either way, it's going to be done more often than not.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be a situation where it's like, oh, I felt bad today and that's it. You're
You're
always
right.
going to have that feeling. You just won't know what it is. But it will
Yes.
be, constant. And it will
Right.
make you feel small. It will make you doubt yourself. It will make you doubt your own um, identity or doubt who you are as a person. It will make you doubt your feelings. It will make you doubt who you are. You won't have a sense of clarity or
Right.
courage or confidence, not just in yourself, but how you think, how you feel, how you go about things. And that will all be determined by that person. They will be the puppet master behind the scenes determining, you know,
Mm,
what you say, what you do, and you will align yourself with that. So that's what I've seen. So patterns are a great indicator when you can't put your finger on something,
I like
because you
that.
don't have to set that person off.
Yeah.
Trust me, they will do what they feel like doing when they are triggered by something. And
Yeah.
that trigger usually is external factors or internal factors, depending on what that person's going through. But it's outside of you, hence why it's done constantly.
Yeah. What you're saying reminds me of, I'm going to say a partial quote because I'm like straight up Medea when it comes to quotes, but I'm going to try. I remember Oprah saying it, and I think she was quoting Maya Angelou, but it's something where it's like, you people don't remember what you do, but they remember how you make them feel. So I think that's important with a toxic pattern, is that you might not be able to identify it once you think about it consciously, but you will know how that person makes you feel. That is something that will be instantly recognizable to you. So,
I I totally agree with that. Brilliant.
yeah. All right. So now that you've identified the patterns and you going ahead and not try, but voice your feelings to the person, it's important that you be respectful, but not apologetic. And I made that distinction because I think in this day and age, people tend to confuse, and it could just be me. I could be wrong. This could be an incorrect perspective. I think people tend to confuse respect and being apologetic. I think they intertwine those two things. It is important that you are respectful. I always think that. Respect is, it's something that is given and is something that I expect. Um, so for me, conflict will happen. Not everybody thinks like that, but conflict, I am comfortable with dealing with conflict. You don't have to apologize. Don't apologize for your experience. But the respectfulness is basic, in my opinion, as to what everyone should have. And it also allows for a person to be able to hear you. You don't, even if you're right and you're either cursing out a person or maybe not even that far, but also coming out of your mouth to express how it is that a person makes you feel does not make that situation conducive of a healthy solution. And that's how I look at it. Like, even though the person was disrespectful, and did not, like, speak to you in a way that you would like, and that is validating of you as a human being, it doesn't mean that you have to stoop to their level to bring your point across. And it actually will make it worse, in my opinion. So you could tell me what you think, but
I agree. I agree. You know what? I need to evolve as a human being, because
we
even
all,
respect towards a traffic, towards a toxic person, for me, it's like,
yeah,
really? I have to really try and be conscious of saying to myself, okay, I need to keep the respect here, because again,
yeah,
do I really want to? No. Do I really think you're deserving?
yeah.
No. Can I control my tongue? Most of the times, no. And
So
the
you say you
great,
can't control your tongue?
please,
You can't control your tongue?
I need Jesus
That's
every
what I'm
single time
saying.
I'm having
Okay,
to
okay.
deal with something like this, right? So that's why I'm saying, in addition to what you said about respect, I think the great way to, because not everybody is going to be in that state of mind,
Right.
to
I
act
mean,
that would be being emotionally centered prior to
Correct.
you approaching the person who
Mhm.
you want to confront or have that conversation with. I would say give yourself time. So, whatever incident that has happened between both of you, I would say give yourself time, get your thoughts together. Don't be ruled by your emotions.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
to be able to be level headed, sound mind prior to you speaking to them. So, I think that will help with the respect aspect because a lot of us, what we do, we go in guns blazing.
Right.
I know, because I'm that person. Guns blazing because you just want to get your point across.
Right.
And you want there to be a resolution so badly that the tactic, the execution, doesn't come about the way that you anticipated.
I
And
agree, and
oh,
it's from a
oh,
basis of, "Yo, I didn't deserve what you said," so
yeah,
I understand that. Like, I didn't deserve what you said, and I don't wanna give you respect because you disrespected me um, and you did it on purpose. Now, being respectful also says that, like, you give a person a chance, like, maybe they didn't mean it, but if it's even if it's a pattern, I have to say, even if it's a pattern, there are people who, like, normally are not confronted with their behaviors, so they might be doing something that they weren't aware that they were doing, even though they've been doing it for years, nobody brought it to their attention, and though it's not your place to, like, teach them. It's also giving a benefit of the doubt of, what it is, what their experience is, because I myself have done things and not recognized that, oh, this is a pattern of mine. I usually do this and I don't mean to. So I think you kind of give a person the benefit of of the doubt. You don't give them a pass. You just give them the benefit of the doubt.
gosh, you're so understanding.
Ah, see, that's the thing. That's the thing, yo. And I tend to, a lot of people say this, and I get ticked off. I'm not ticked off at you or anything, though, Grace. But it's like, look, I'm going through the same feelings, my G. I want to hurt you because for me, that will make it physically easier. Get it to me, in my opinion, get it out of my way. I don't have to deal with it, blah, blah, blah. But that is not like, if I really want to get to an actual solution, because really what I want is I need you to stop doing this thing. That's what I
But this
want.
is saying
So,
understanding is a bad thing. It's
but
just having the courage and mustering all of that to be able to do it.
And I do it too, Grace. Like, that would mean that I'm perfect. And that's how I had to look at it. That would
I
mean
know.
that every interaction, I've never said something underhanded. I've never made a mistake. I've never made somebody feel shitty, whether it was on purpose and that, like, I am subject to it too. So if I'm going to be willing to be held accountable, that means I gotta give somebody else that grace too. Not you
Wow.
grace, but that grace. You know what I'm saying?
No, seriously, that was a good comment. Do you know why? Because I feel like when you have the name Grace, oh my god, you
Like,
have
that's not
to
fair.
away with that. That's all I need to say. It's like it comes with such a burden, right? Anything you do out of bounds, out of line, everyone will hold you up to that standard and say, "Oh, really, Grace? Really? You? Really?"
Even to
Like,
being ungraceful, like if you don't walk gracefully or dance gracefully, like what the hell? This name carries a lot.
is out of place and you look scruffy. That's what my mom used to do to me. How can the grace of God leave the house like this? Like I had to look the part. Like it's
You
such a
named
burden.
me, lady. You named
And
me, and that's not right.
yeah, you carry that with you. That's why a lot of the time when I'm literally acting wild, everyone's looking at me like, "Aren't you supposed to
Grace.
be great?"
Yeah.
No, don't, don't look at me like that. I'm a human.
I will
I mean,
throat punch you.
I will you in the throat, Jackie Chan style.
That's
That's it.
so funny. That's so
Yeah,
funny.
it's
But yeah.
hilarious.
So I think, like, I don't think we practice thinking that we ourselves are not perfect
Absolutely.
enough.
We are delusional.
And again, it's not, like, you're not letting that person get by. You're not. It's just that you're opening up to have an actual conversation, and to me, when you open up to have a conversation, you will learn a lot. You will learn whether this is a productive conversation or not. You will learn, is this person doing it on purpose or not? Like, you learn a lot of things by opening up that ground, which empowers you to know how to behave with that person moving forward, honestly.
Yeah,
But it is not instantly, it doesn't feel good. It's not that instant gratification. It really isn't.
sure.
Um, so then you give the person ample opportunity to respond. So, like I was saying, you get to hear, like, if you're really listening with everything, with your eyes, like you said, body language, with your ears, with your soul, you'll be able to figure out what is happening with this person. Did this person mean it? Like, if they shut down immediately, oh, so we can't have a conversation, where this is concerned, but I brought it to your attention anyway. Like, I did my part. So that lets me know how to move forward where that's concerned. We could actually sit and have a respectful conversation. And, we talk about deep psychological issues and what happened to you when you were two. That can happen too.
Hmm.
So you have anything to add to that, Grace?
Um, I just personally think it's like go with the intent to listen as much as you're going to the intent to speak. Yeah.
I like it.
So that's if that person is willing to have that conversation with you as well.
Right,
And
right.
like Rachel said, you're going to find out whether that person wants to have that conversation with you or not, whether they meant it or not. But most importantly for me, what I found is if that person cares or not.
Mhm.
Um, and caring for me is more important because by you caring, I know how the conversation is going to go
Right,
because there's going to be a conversation. By
right,
you not caring, that's where we get the dismissal.
right,
And why are we even talking about this? Why
right,
did you even bring it up? Or get over it?
right.
Or, it's not that important. Or, like, so what, man? Okay, yeah, 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 yeah. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, sorry. Someone will just tell you what you want to hear to
Yeah,
shut you up. Not
right,
because they intent to listen to what you're saying
right.
and acknowledge the pain that they have inflicted upon you
That's a
or
great
caused
point.
you,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
that's why I'm saying indifference is a big thing. I used to think,
Mhm.
indifference just basically means whatever.
Yeah,
But
right.
that's not the indifference really means I do not care.
Mhm.
Neither here nor there, I am not there. Don't even bother with me.
Mm,
And I've been that person a lot of the times where I've been indifferent. It took me a long time to care about things. And this is
mm,
just a lesser note, right?
mhm,
On a minor note, I it's easy. It was easy for me growing up as a kid, where it's just like just to care for something.
mhm.
I remember like, why don't you care? Why don't you care for anything? Like I don't know if it's just I don't know if it was just me just thinking to myself where it's like, what's the point? I don't know if I just had that laziness, that cavalier personality growing up as a kid, but to make me care about something, it took a lot. However, when I cared about something, I gave a lot. So
Right.
you really like a really uh a really what is it? A straight line? What do we call it? I can't speak
I don't, to me, that's like,
line.
where to put your energy. Like,
Yeah. There was this massive distinction, basically, what I'm
mhm,
saying,
mhm.
between
You
what
either
I cared
didn't
about.
care or
I
you cared too much.
Exactly, right? But when you don't care, you've already divorced yourself from something. You've already
Right.
separated yourself from something, right? So it doesn't matter how much that person is hurting or that person wants you to care or that person is crying out for something. When you have disassociated yourself with a topic, a person or whatever, you will never hear them. That's the one thing I would say in this situation.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with a toxic person who has cut themselves off, you will never reach them because they don't care. They are not there with you. So
Right.
when you go to approach a person and talking to them about how you feel, you need to be prepared to see whether they care to have that conversation with you or not.
True
Because
that.
once dissociated themselves with that, you will realize that that conversation was in vain. They didn't care then, they don't care
Right.
now, and they won't ever care
Right.
later on.
Right. So in that instance, I would say you get to gauge whether they care or not. And then if it's that they're flippant about it, then you know what level of energy to give this conversation. The purpose of it would be informative. Like, look, this is the way you made me feel. I don't care for it. And this is not a conversation, or I don't expect for this type of behavior to be happening again. To me, that's where that would end. That's the being respectful and not apologetic, but also that type of person, why pour your heart and soul into that conversation? It's not necessary. So to me, you wind up protecting yourself, but you have that clarity that you needed in how to handle that particular individual. Um,
Mm.
so yes, I do understand that, and that made perfect sense. Um, so then this is going naturally. You go right into, you absorb everything as fully as you can. Like with your heart and soul, is this person solution based? Do they care? Like Grace said. And if not, you can move forward appropriately.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes I know what happens with me, especially because I was married. I've been divorced now for 3 years. And at sometimes when my husband at the time, we're friends now, I would say, we used to get into heated conversations, and it was so much so that I would forget certain things that I wanted to talk about, like certain points that were hit that I wanted to discuss or highlight, that sometimes I would straight up write down. I would let him know, "Hey, I'm writing this down because I don't want to forget," because they were points that were important to me. But because I was giving him the platform to say what it is he needed to say, I didn't want to interrupt to have a productive conversation, but I wrote down, what it is that I wanted to address when it was my turn. Um, so yeah. Any thoughts about that, or
I don't think I've ever written anything down. I've got a pretty
great
good.
memory? Yeah, that's the thing for me. I don't. So I'm like, yeah, I need to write this down. So
I
I'm
have,
jealous of that.
yeah, but this is like I said to you before. I think I've had conversations with Rachel about this, about having a great memory is a double-edged sword. You usually find it in people who tend to struggle with forgiveness because they hold grudges,
Mhm.
right? And
Mm.
it's something because you can't hold a grudge if you forget easily.
You
Trust
can.
me.
You can. I be
It's
forgetting stuff, but I could hold a grudge if I wanted to. But I get
no,
what
but
you're saying. You remember
yeah.
it much more vividly.
Oh my goodness. It's you remember not only how that person made you feel, you remember what you wore, you remember the weather,
Yeah.
you ate, you remember what you did that day, you remember how they said it, what they said,
Yep.
you remember their intent, you remember
Yep.
the feeling. And
It
it's
was
one of those
raining and I cried with the rain and I felt
oh
one
my
with the
God,
clouds, and yeah.
you remember the date.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about it is it's a constant movie that resounds in your mind on a
Mm.
daily basis. And this is how bad this situation is, right? Especially like I feel like I've got a photographic memory. Like I even my husband says, Grace, you're basically a lawyer who basically remembers everything. So if you're having an argument, I've already got my points already because I played those points over and over again in my head. Like my case is already filed, right?
Dope.
We're going to court. I'm going to win this court case,
Love it.
right? So it's one of those things where it's like let's say someone has done you dirty, right? You haven't seen them in a long time. With someone with a memory like me, if you bump into them in the street accidentally, every feeling that you had that moment when they did you wrong comes flooding back where you can feel it not only in your spirit, your soul, your heart, your mind, your body, everything in that one meeting. It's that bad,
That makes
right?
perfect sense. I never thought it that way.
It's
Like that.
insane.
Yeah.
It's like you bump into someone, you go, you have that shock where it's like, I can't believe it's you.
Yeah. Yeah,
I believe it's you.
yeah.
And everything comes flooding back in, and you literally like in that moment in time, that's when I would say the whole Jackie Chan thing, you want to punch them in the throat, fly kick them or whatever, right?
That makes
Obviously we
so
can't
much
do that in
sense.
public all the time. But usually because your memory is so everything is vivid, you remember, and it's also tied to emotions, I feel as well, because I'm a deep thinker and feeler.
Mhm.
So you not only are you remembering these things, you are constantly reliving it, you're
Yeah,
refeeling it, you're rethinking it. It's a day-to-day thing for you.
yeah,
So nothing goes unmissed. So that's why I say having a good memory is a double edged sword. Obviously, we're working on ourselves, we're not perfect.
not
And
at
it's a
all.
situation where I struggled mostly when I was young. I
Mhm.
would, especially being a teen, because your hormones are all over the place, you're super emotional. And even as a young adult, for me, it was such a struggle of letting go. Letting go was non existent for me. Now, as I got older and learning lessons, struggles, failures, pain, whatever you want to call it, you go through so many different things in life. And like Rachel says, look, we're not perfect. However, us human beings, it's very difficult for us to remember that we ourselves are not perfect as opposed to looking outside than within. We love
Yeah,
to look at other people and say, hey, they did that and they did this and they did this. No, we need to look within more often as to how we can grow, how we can be better and do better, right? So when we get ourselves into those kind of places, it becomes a thing where it's like, okay, I know I've got a problem. I know I have an issue that I need to deal with that needs to be resolved. How do I go about that?
yeah.
And that's where all of this plays part of, trying to forgive and forget.
I don't know
Truly
about
trying
forget, like, forget nah, even me with
to.
my bad memory, but definitely a forgiveness, and it's also the thing of forgiveness does not mean that we will have, like, now a great relationship, especially based on what the person did, like, how toxic the person was. Because if I was with a guy, like, say, domestic abuse, I will forgive you, but I will not be with you ever again. So there is a deep distinction. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
for sure.
Um, but that forgiveness, like they say, that cliche crap, but it be true sometimes or all the time, but I hate the way it sounds. Forgiveness is for you, not for
Oh,
them.
I absolutely
Ah,
heard
but
the
it
other
is
one.
so
Not
damn
being able
true.
to forgive people is like you drinking the poison and wishing for them to die.
Yes.
It's
It's
like,
so
yeah,
true, like, I don't wanna hear it, shut up, but it's
for sure.
true. I hate it, but it's
Oh
true.
my gosh. Every single time I would get someone say, forgiveness is like you drinking poison and wishing for the other person to die. You're the one who's killing yourself. And I'm like, yo, I'm fine.
And I feel like killing you right now for saying it, but, you know,
And it's like, do I really feel like I've been poisoned? No.
do I
All
wanna
right.
hear this right now? You're poisoning my ears right now, so
Literally, like, let me be filled with rage and
le
peace.
yes, I wanna be
Angry.
mad.
But I just want to make a point. That doesn't mean you can't feel what you feel. And I want our listeners to actually really hone into that. Just because someone is saying to you, you need to forgive or forget or both,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean you neglect your emotions at that time.
I
Feel
agree.
how you feel,
I agree.
deal with your emotions. We can't destroy it, we can't get rid of it, we can't suppress it, we can't do all of those different things because it eats us from within, right?
Y
You
yep.
can be angry, you can be mad, you can be in your feelings. No Drake, right?
Yeah, you need to do that. That is so hilarious. No Drake, I can't with you, Grace.
Like, but it's one of those things where it's like, then you start the healing process and start to forgive it.
Yeah, because that
This
can't be a process that there's no end to.
exactly. You have to feel how you feel. And that's the problem I have with so many people where it's like, why are you mad? Why are you
Nah,
angry?
son,
Why?
I
Oh,
can't stand that either. Like, you
let me
must
be
go through it.
literally, like
Yeah.
people are trying to stop you from your healing process. And emotions and feelings
Yep.
is your healing process.
Yes.
You need to know why you feel how you feel.
Yep.
You need to know how to deal with it, how to move forward,
Yep.
and you need to know how you're going to address the other person.
Yep.
Should you to. So that can't be done if you're literally just like, I'm in my feelings, but I'm not gonna talk about it.
You're
I'm not
right.
gonna. on it. I'm not gonna. No, 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 no. Feel how you feel,
because
and
then
then do
you'll
healing and forgiveness. That's what I would
yes.
say.
Yeah, because then you'll be approaching that situation in a toxic manner
Oh,
yourself,
for sure.
having not gone through that process. I totally agree with you on that, Grace, with the, feeling how you feel. That is, you need to have a safe place to be allowed to do that. Even if that safe place is within yourself, if it's not with another person or whatever, you need to go through that process and experience the completeness of all of those feelings.
For
So
sure.
yes, that's great, great, great points, Grace. All right. So once you have now spoken to this person and if they care or not, whatever, your point the point is that you made your point known in a respectful way. So that's something that's a respect for you and that's for that person. Then you know how to move forward. So you set ground rules. It's either with the person if they want to proceed further, like say they did take you up on what you said and they were apologetic or whatever it was, it's like, okay, if they say something like, I'm really sorry and I'll watch out for that moving forward, that then the ground rules has been set from them. If it's something that is not said, for me, I need extra clarity. I need things to be like extra clear. I'm open to saying things like, this is not something that I would want to experience in the future. So
Hmm.
if that's something that you can, keep in mind, something like that. Um, like I would make sure to put a dot, a period at the end of that sentence and not just leave it hanging. And then for me, from there, it's like, um, you give that person the opportunity. If it's a situation or a relationship that you want to salvage, you move forward as normally as you can. Like
Hmm.
sometimes you might need time, you might need space depending on what happened. But when you
Hmm.
can, let it be a situation where it's like you're moving forward for normalcy,
Hmm.
or if it's a situation where you wasn't feeling that person and like you've made a definition basically of where you want that relationship to move forward and you move appropriately. So if
Hmm.
you if it's a relationship you want to salvage, you can't just be on some, oh, like that person now needs to do all the efforts because I was hurt and so I'm not going to speak to them until they speak to me. Like that's not going to help unless you didn't want that relationship. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yeah, it needs to be worth salvaging, right?
Right.
It can't be
If
any relation.
you believe it was worth salvaging.
Exactly.
Yeah. So give the person actual opportunity and then in order for this relationship, in my opinion, to be truly fruitful, like y'all went to a next level, is that if this behavior happens again, because it might, again, we're not perfect, we are evolving beings, you ought to be able to let that person know, hey, that behavior is happening again, and I don't want to revisit what happened before. There's that, and there's the if it's so toxic and it's happening again, then you got to know for yourself, is it worth salvaging from there? Anything to add there, Grace?
I would say if it goes back to a toxic relationship, this is where I would get witnesses. I would have got witnesses the moment where you had doubts whether the person was being toxic towards you or not. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I say that is because it goes hand in hand with the whole manipulation thing. In
Mm-hmm.
certain circumstances, whether it be family members, whether it be partners, whether it be friendships, anything, it's easy for um, people on the outside to not believe you just because of their behavior, right? It's easy because they've already painted the narrative. They've already decided who you are. They've already told people who um, who you are and how they should see you, right? So even if you are trying to tell someone, hey, I really think this person's being abusive towards me, or this person's always makes me feel bad or whatever, a lot of the times um you get people on the outside doubting that. And I'm going to give a quick example of my own experience here, because I think this is the best way to describe it.
Mhm.
Because I don't want to rant and go around in circles.
You never
Uh,
ran race.
ranting is a skill that I hold, a real talent. So I was raised by my stepdad,
Mhm,
and my stepdad was very respected in our community. So I'm originally from the Congo, DRC, for those of you who don't know, which is Central Africa, bang in the middle, right?
mm,
And I was raised in the UK. I was raised in London. However, there is, London is so multicultural. I would liken it to New York City, right? It's super multicultural. Everyone lives there. And most people, depending on what country you come from, you have small communities, whether it be Nigerian community, Kenyan community, Congolese community,
mhm.
Italian community. There's different people there.
Right.
So my stepdad was very successful when I was growing up. He had charities, he had his own businesses, and was very popular. Before even having all of these businesses, before he made it, before all of these different things, he was naturally a likable person.
Mhm.
He was social. He knew everyone and had so many different friends. We had a house that everyone came to our house. Parties were always happening because of him. My mum wasn't a social person. She kept herself to herself, but she was married to a very popular social person who had so many friends, so many different contacts. And in an African household, hospitality is king, right? Whether you are social or not, bringing people in your home is part of our culture, right? So it became a thing that when their relationship deteriorated, and my mum had suffered so much abuse
Mhm.
um, by him. Whoever she told didn't believe her,
Wow.
which was crazy because they all knew my mum.
Wow.
But it was so hard for them to believe. He was successful. He was likable. I had friends who would compliment me saying how great my stepdad was and how we were so lucky to have him, not knowing he was an awful person in the house, right? But he was charming. He was funny. He was highly intelligent. That's naturally like an African thing, right? Not
Right.
having a degree is like looked down upon, right? And
Yeah.
most of the time, you have to have a master's and a PhD, right?
Right.
And considered to be nothing. So this is a highly educated individual, super charming, can talk about anything, a great conversationalist, hilarious, popular, and he has influence and he has money
Wow.
and he has businesses.
That's a
And this
tough
is a
spot.
person who
Yeah.
is changing cars every single month. He dresses to the nines, African men, most people who know African people out there, dressing up is a thing for
Right.
us.
Right.
You need to look the part. So even though these people knew my mum, knew her personality, knew her character, knew she wasn't a troublemaker, knew she wasn't, someone who caused issue with anybody, would give an arm and a leg to help someone, knowing who this person was, right?
Right.
No one believed that she was being abused. No one believed that, and even when they found out that my stepdad had mistresses and had babies outside of their marriage and so many different things, they were still in support of him because those
Wow.
mistakes and all the other abuse things couldn't have possibly happened anyway
Wow.
because he's so likable
Wow.
and he controlled the narrative as well. And even though it would sound outlandish, everything he would say would be believed.
Wow.
There was no evidence. He would, and this is the thing about people like that, because he's naturally social, he's going from event to event, party to party, house to house. And who's the subject? My mum.
Wow.
He's controlling the narrative. He's spreading the rumors. He's spreading the information, the false information. He is gaining alliances with other people. He is building relationships with even people who weren't friends with him and probably were friends with my mum. Abandoned my mum for him.
Well,
My
that's
mum lost all her friends.
unfortunate. That's unfortunate, but those people were definitely not your mother's friends.
But either way, whether you're manipulated or not, whether it's done on purpose or not, what I'm trying to say is that person held the narrative. They controlled the narrative,
Yeah.
right? And it's one of those things where it's like the only way things changed is when she approached him or whenever she spoke to him, she then brought elders within our community to speak to him.
Oh, wow.
That was the only way. And that's how things changed for her. Because
Wow.
on her own, she will piss him off, set him off. He will lose his temper. He will either beat her, whatever it is that he wanted to do.
Right.
He will do it. He will leave the house, persona back on, greet everybody. Everyone's great. She comes out and says, "Oh yeah, he did." What? No, I just
Nobody
saw him.
believed
He's
her.
great. I was
Right.
gonna leave.
Wow.
When she started to bring elders to these conversations or meetings, going, "Look, we need to do something because divorce isn't really something that is celebrated in the African community, right? Divorce is very, you get shunned, and
Mm,
most women they don't want to divorce their husbands, and husbands technically don't want to divorce their wives; they just want to have multiple women.
right.
Um, so when they would bring the elders there to speak to him, he now has to be in control of
Right.
his emotions, his character.
Right.
The problem is, it's very difficult to do that when the person who usually angers you can be shut up by you beating them down,
Right.
insulting them,
Right.
treating them like trash, because now you have an audience.
Right. Oh,
Do you
that's
understand what
that's
I'm
yes.
saying?
Yes.
So if she presses the wrong buttons, it's very difficult for you to keep yourself intact
Right.
without blowing up.
The true you shall
True
shine.
colors come.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is why I say bring a witness, even if those witnesses are not there to intervene, but are just there to listen and moderate.
Right.
Witnesses, because they will be your support and they will see from a non biased point of view, as an outsider, what is really going on
Right.
and what is the situation. And that was the best way for me to describe it in those kind of instances because I've been through stuff like that. My mum's been through stuff like that. We've all even with friendship groups where you are not friends with someone anymore, but you
Right.
want to keep peace. And then
Right.
that friend hates you and exposes your secrets and talks trash about you and everyone stops being your friend.
Right.
Even situations like that can be very minor now as an adult, but but when you're alone, that person is a completely different person.
Right.
But when you have a witness, it gives the full picture to the outside, people. And if you see yourself going back into that pattern where that person's gone back to their ways or whatever, and you still want to be able to address that, have a witness there. Don't do it on your own
Right.
because you'll just go back in circles over and over again because it's just your word against theirs,
Yep.
you against them,
Yep.
and that's where I would end there without rambling. I
I
hope that all makes sense.
That made perfect sense, and that takes me to the one of the last things is either having a third party, like you said, for your mother, and what
Mhm.
a situation that was! Wow.
Yeah.
So like say elders, other friends, and in my case, marital counseling, a counselor or something where it's not about sides, but it's actually about the situation being able to be played with a third party around, and each person is able to be in the mirror, basically. It's like now
Have it.
you're forced
Yeah.
to see yourself.
Hmm.
Or other people at least see you and can provide a support for that person who is, um, undergoing the toxicity.
Yeah.
So I think that was a great example. And the last point that I would bring is, hey, look, we are gregarious by nature as people. We are social beings. I know in my life And I think people, we enjoy connection and we thrive with connection. And what better connection than people who you share the same blood with, or like say it's your siblings, you came out of the same womb. That's what I always think with my siblings.
Mhm.
Mothers, like you want to have good relationships with your family. So, and friends. So working it out is within both of your best interests.
For
Because
sure.
what I think of is, if I think of people as, and it's been said in the Bible, here I go being Medea again, but we're all a part of a body, like of a functioning body. And if one part isn't working, the whole body isn't working. So,
Mhm.
with certain relationships, it's like, you really want it to work out, but it is not in our power. We are within our power. The way other people behave isn't, so hopefully, that person will want to work it out, and you go through a process and it gets better. But there are certain situations where it's not salvageable. If
Mhm.
there's anything I've learned, is no matter how much I wish for a person to be better, if they're not doing the work, I cannot make them better. And
Mhm.
that's been a tragedy in my life that I've seen and experienced. It's like I've had to watch certain relationships die because, you know, um, that person wasn't willing to work. Or there are certain situations where I knew that it was not a situation that I could allow, and I put up my boundary by stepping away, and that person eventually did get better. I would say that for my ex-husband, like, but you definitely have to wisely do what is best for you, because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, nobody can do that for you. No one. People can advise you, people can, but as far as knowing what is healthy and best for you, that's on you and God, so it is important that, another cliche, but before you can put your oxygen mask on anybody else, you got to put it on yourself first. Or
Mhm.
before you jump out of a ship, you got to make sure you put your lifesaver on before you think about other people. You have to do that, or there
Mhm.
is no you that's there that can do anything. So, sometimes you really got to step all the way back. And
Mhm.
it is a last resort, in my opinion, but that needs to be something that is in our minds, because while love can be unconditional, your presence ought not be unconditional, because then to me that means you'll allow people to do whatever they want with you, or
Yeah.
your behavior will constantly be determined by how it is that they're behaving towards you. So,
Yes.
yeah, that's all I got for that.
I totally agree. I absolutely agree with all of that. Health is wealth, and that
Yeah.
goes for emotional health,
Yes.
mental health, spiritual health.
Yes.
All of that is wealth, and our well-being is so important because it affects every other areas of our lives.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I want to hone in is, when things are not dealt with, it seeps through in different aspects of our lives.
Definitely.
And it's hard for us to maintain and to deal with all of them at once.
Right.
So if something can be dealt with, a resolution is always preferred
Right.
rather rather than separation and discourse.
Right.
Discord.
Right.
Sorry,
Right.
discord. Yeah. If you can solve the problem, solve it. If you can reconcile, reconcile. If you can make the right choices and come up with a, a balance, an equilibrium, try and do that.
Right.
However, not at the detriment of your growth, of your spirit, of your health, of your mental state, not at the detriment of your well being and your future. And a lot of the times, this will be my final thought, a lot of the times I feel um, it's easier to leave toxic relationships outside of the family, but family relationships that are tainted do more damage because these are the people who you did not choose to be with.
Mm.
These are the people God chose for you. You
Yeah.
came into the world. You didn't choose to come into this world. You
Right.
didn't choose your family.
Right.
You didn't choose your siblings. You didn't choose your mother. You didn't choose your father, right?
Right.
And these are the relationships that I think they cause more hurt, more burdens, more um, trauma,
Yeah.
I feel,
Yes.
than external relationships of people we have met by choice.
Absolutely.
Meaning, even though we have cut them off out of our lives, there's still that void. Like
There.
Rachel said, these are the same people who shared a womb. You know, you came out of the same womb with these people. These are the same people you grew up with. You shared meals. Some of us, we shared beds with our siblings. Some of us, we shared clothes. We shared so much. And a lot of us, our lives are defined by our experiences with each other.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to divorce yourself from that,
Yeah.
especially if you do want reconciliation, especially if that's what's best. If it is possible, seek it
Yeah.
and hold on to it. If not, this is the hardest thing
Yeah.
you can do in your life is to disassociate yourself with people from your own family
Yes.
and cut yourself off and give yourself a break. That doesn't mean you have to hate your family members. It's just understanding that there needs to be boundaries. There needs to be an understanding where I want to separate myself from all that is negative or that impacts me, from my family, but at the same time support them from afar or love them from afar,
Yeah.
which I believe is also possible. So that will be my final thought.
That was a beautiful final thought. Thank you for that. I feel very serene after this conversation. Um, this is something that, like, these types of things are definitely not easy to deal with. Um,
Mm,
and there's no, and how I'm learning, what I'm learning about life at this point in my life is that there isn't always a happy ending. And that is life. You can find happiness, within a not
yes,
happy ending,
yes,
and certain things are like, okay, you made the right choice. Or, it doesn't mark the end of the situation. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. But going about your decision making in a more reflective manner will definitely be more beneficial in our lives than just going at it emotionally. And so I really enjoyed how insightful this conversation was. I really enjoy your examples, Grace, a lot. Like, you really get that good memory. I have to write
that,
everything down. But
I'm always trying, Rachel.
I love that. I really love that. So I
Oh,
found this to be a very insightful conversation, and I thank
yeah.
you for it. And I thank anybody who listened. Um, and lastly, I would say, because I be forgetting to do this, and after leaving this conversation, we got to plug in. We got to plug in our Instagram stuff. So
Yes. Go
great
on, Rachel.
grass, Grace. Go ahead. Go ahead and let our people know where you can be found, please.
Yes. You can find me on Twitter at Grace_Kugrena. So I'm usually there retweeting a whole bunch of mess. Join me on Twitter. And I'm also on Instagram, and my handle is at the_reading_hideout. So I'm an author, I'm a kid-lit author. I write children's books. And you can see most of my work there, my events over there as well. And feel free to go on Amazon and Kindle to be able to read my children's books. They're
Purchase them.
picture books. So
Yes.
any little kiddies that you have, let them find my work. I think they will absolutely enjoy it. So that's where you can find me, Instagram and Twitter.
I still love that word kidlit. I don't care what you say.
Kidlit,
I
yes.
love it. I love it. Um,
Get you
and next
somewhere.
time, I think we need to put our plugs in the beginning. So we're gonna do that. But I can be found on Instagram. Not so much lately, but I'm gonna get back on it. At the Sassy Rachel on Instagram, and I am a poet by way of therapy. And I am in the process of writing a class curriculum for young ladies. And I aim to be teaching that at some point between this year and next. So that's my project right now. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you so much, Grace, for a wonderful conversation. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Rachel. And we will speak to you the next episode. Bye.